Welcome to your PWC Connections, a monthly look at what's happening at PWC and around our community. I'm your host, Courtney Lucas. This month's edition is packed with interesting and informative stories and helpful tips. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
I was on the board of directors for Electric Cities of North Carolina for several terms, and I called Roy Jones, who is the CEO for Electric Cities, when Hurricane Irma was originally kind of projected to come through North Carolina, and volunteered to try to help any way I could. Fortunately, it didn't come to North Carolina, so I had a call from Roy who said, "Would you like to go to Florida and help the folks down south?" And I talked to my wife and said, "Yes, I'd be glad to do that." So. In my earlier years, I was an engineer at Fayetteville PWC, so I had a lot of experience with substations and distribution lines and construction and how those are supposed to work. The Fort Meade system was really an older system. They didn't have a lot of the more modern switches and those kind of things that we have here in Fayetteville. And so it was a little different working, but we were able to grab hold of their system very quickly and begin to move forward and start putting people's lights on. And you could see the happiness with people as their lights were coming back on. They were very appreciative of all the folks from North Carolina who were down trying to help them. Our guys done a great job, and the main thing is they did it safely. And you know, they've got a lot of experience working in different areas where the bridge was and the lines were down and crossing the main bridge where it flooded and washed the poles over. Is a good example, as well as the industrial area where we had to rebuild the whole system, put up poles and transformers and those kind of things. The majority of their system was overhead. Part of their problem was the number of their poles were rotten, so whenever the winds came through, they actually broke off in the ground, so we had to go back in. And then we had lines where the poles were actually leaning for 8, 10, 12 poles all leaning, that we had to get back up in a straight manner so that they wouldn't fall over or break off. So it was really interesting because the guys, they worked hard. We worked some long hours, but they done a great job, and they done it safely, and that was the main thing.
Pulling out the plant, everything was going easy, going smooth. Ran about 60, 65 until we got outside of Florence, South Carolina. Then it come to a dead stop, heavy rain. Then we started going about 5, 10 miles per hour for about 3 hours. So what would have been a 16-hour drive took 23 hours. So that was the toughest part. Well, we experienced Matthew. So what we seen here, we thought we was gonna see down there. When we first pulled in, we seen a couple poles laid over, nothing major, until we got to where we were working, which was Fort Meade. And he took us down the back roads, and it was just devastating. Trees laying on houses, power lines laying everywhere, poles laying in rivers. It was devastating. It was about 16-hour work days, all day, 2 breaks, worked all day, doing as much as we could to get the power back on. Oh man, people were gracious. They were stopping, they were giving us drinks. We didn't have to buy nothing. They were giving us food, snacks. I mean, there were people stopping all the time, blowing horns all the time. People were really happy to see us.
Mutual aid is where Electric Cities make a phone call, because we're a member of the Electric Cities Division. And they come and they call people to come out and help other cities that's in stress, but which we had to make sure our stuff didn't get tore up first. And we went down, and Lumberton went down, and we convoyed with Lumberton because they're a member of Electric Cities. Well, we got to Georgia, and we noticed the National Guard was coming down beside us on both sides of the interstate, being escorted by the sheriff department. We didn't know what was going on. We thought something bad had happened. We couldn't find out they were closing the exits off on 95 because everybody in that county in Georgia had evacuated. And there's nobody to run the stores, and people were in there looting. Yeah, so they cut off 95. Well, we didn't have no fuel. We were running out of fuel. So we had to get stopped and talk to the guy at the National Guard and told him, hey, look, we got to get off this exit. We had some fuel. So luckily, there was about 2 miles up the road, there was a Love's truck stop, had a generator, and they let us get off that exit and fill the trucks up. And that got us to Florida. Fort Meade is, they had a lot of old construction. They didn't have but one substation for fire servicing. Our line department is 70-something strong. And it's smaller than what it normally is. We're bigger than that at one time. He asked me, he said, how many substations do y'all have? I said 32. He about felt hit the floor. He couldn't believe we had that many substations. Believe it or not, this hurricane was pretty easy. It was aggravating because of the water, wet stuff had to work in, but it was easy stuff to get to. They had a lot of copper construction, a lot of copper wire, heavy stuff. They had one post in the river, and we had to get it back up. It was laid over in the river, and we got it back. That was about a half a day job to get it back, get that circuit back on. There's 6 or 7 poles in there, but one of them's in the river laid down. As far as alligators, they got alligators like we got mosquitoes. Everywhere you look, there's an alligator. There's a pond, there's an alligator somewhere. And I ain't never been around no alligators. We don't do that stuff up here. It makes you feel good. A lot of hometown support when we come back. People thanking us and stuff. The people riding by down 95, going down there blowing the horn and going down there and coming back. There was line trucks and bucket trucks for days. I mean, you see them all over the highway. They're everywhere. And people appreciate it. Sure did. It makes you feel good when you know people appreciate what you do.
I mean, it made me feel good to get people on because they had been up without power for a while, and it was hot. So it was hot down there, so you imagine what everybody was going through and ready to get something cold and some real food and everything and sleep in a good bed.
I wouldn't hesitate to go to another hurricane relief for the people. That's what makes it all about it. It's for the people. Seeing people happy, seeing kids smiling, and it's worth it. That's what makes it.
At Fayetteville's Public Works Commission, people make the difference.
My name's Chris, and I'm a lineman at PWC.
Chris and his colleagues help make PWC one of the most reliable power providers in the nation. As a local public power company, PWC can provide faster emergency response. With system upgrades and continuous maintenance, they ensure the excellent everyday service. And their rates are among the lowest in the state. For tips on conserving power, visit PWC's website.
Out of high school, I joined the Marines and went straight to California and out of the country. I did that for 8 years. There was a lot going on. We traveled around a lot. And then I exited the military on an honorable discharge and went back to my home state of Florida. I started working at the Kennedy Space Center. I did start going back to school while I was working at the Kennedy Space Center, and I got a bachelor's degree, a BS in computer science and business. And then once I completed that, I wanted to pursue a master's degree because that was my ultimate goal, is to at least complete a master's degree. And then the University of Miami had faculty that would drive up from Miami to Central Florida to the Space Center and teach. So the entire program was on campus at the Kennedy Space Center with Miami faculty, and I completed my master's degree in science. First I started working on the solid rocket boosters. Those are the white rockets that you see. And I started as a site test conductor processing the orbiter itself. Processing the shuttle means when it first lands, you get the astronauts out, and most of the time because of microgravity, they're very weak and the body grows up to 1.5 inches. So we get them out in wheelchairs, we extract all of the experiments, and then we wheel the vehicle back into the hangar and start the process and getting it ready for launch all over again. I did that for approximately 10 years. Some of the launches have been a lot of fun, and the night launches I thought were some of the best ones because it's more spectacular because you see the light, you see the cloud and all of the steam, and it's a huge light in the sky from that would otherwise be dark. And something else that's really interesting is you can see the sound shockwave moving across the water out there, and you can see it's clear where you are, but you can see the ripple effect and the turbulence coming across the water surface, and that's really an interesting phenomenon to see. And you can feel it, and it'll blow your clothes a little bit. It feels like a gentle wind as the thunder and the percussion of the launch. That's really interesting, and that never gets old. Hollywood loves to come to the Space Center and make movies like Armageddon. I was an extra in several scenes there. Apollo 13, that was another great movie, and as an extra, and you're just kind of a face in the crowd. you really can't tell that you're in it unless you know, and you pause it and you can point at it, and it's kind of fun for a second. And then contact, I think, with Jodie Foster was another one. Those were 3 that were most recent. I know they've made some other ones since then. Then after that, the shuttle program was shutting down, and they were starting to phase the program out, getting it ready for the next generation vehicle, and there was going to be a long gap. So they were going to have layoffs, and eventually everybody was going to have to leave the program. So I started interviewing and went to General Electric in South Carolina. Worked there building their turbine units for big industrial power plants. A recruiter had asked me if I'd thought about nuclear, and I said no, I've never thought about the nuclear industry. And this recruiter had said that I have a very unique skill set that they might have a good match for working for a nuclear power plant. So I started with nuclear power with Progress Energy, which was then bought by Duke Energy, working for Duke Energy for 5 years, and then I was contracting. And then I met somebody from Fayetteville, and that brought me back here to Fayetteville, and then I started looking for work here in Fayetteville, which led me to PWC. Well, as a process improvement analyst, any group can request that we come in and take a look at their processes and try to improve on them, and typically that means streamlining it, cutting things out that really aren't necessary or not adding any value, and that equates to dollars saved. So it's usually almost always a cost savings if we can streamline their process, and that's almost 100% of the time. Sometimes in our departments we're too close to it, so having somebody else come in and get a fresh set of eyes and a new perspective, coupled with the education and the experience that I have, is really paying off. And what might not be so obvious to the group that's close to the process, it's a little bit more easy for me to identify some issues and then gaps and then improvements and then recommend how we can close that gap. The greatest thing about being a process improvement analyst here is you meet with every group. You're able to interact with everybody at PWC and really finding out what a blessed company this is. In short, it's been a very interesting path, and I'm glad that it's led me here to PWC in Fayetteville. And I'm just getting started here, but I think I've got a long career history ahead of me, and I'm really looking forward to that. I don't know what it's going to be, but I know it's going to be great.
Welcome back to another edition of Funneling All Questions, also known as The Facts. This segment attempts to address best practices for our customers for your water, electrical, and wastewater services. I'm Lamont. Now let's get down to the facts of the matter. Today's question that we'll be funneling: how can I improve on my everyday household water consumption? Some of the practical household activities I wanted to examine were things like brushing your teeth, taking a shower, washing the dishes, or doing the laundry. I had a brief sit-down chat with John Prevett, PWC Water Resources Engineer, to help me get down to the facts. Now let's talk. Joining me, I have John Prevett, PWC Water Resources Engineer. John, thanks for joining me.
Absolutely.
All right, let's break down some of these points. First, brushing your teeth. I know for me particularly, sometimes I am standing there trying to rinse off my toothbrush, or I'm putting my head under the sink to gargle, get some of the water, but it's just running. How and why should I improve on that process?
Well, although we here at PWC try our best to get everyone water when they need water, so when you turn on the faucet, the water is there for you. That water isn't there as an endless supply. We do have to bring the water in and treat the water, and it does cost to treat that water, to pump the water to houses, to install pipes along the way, that sort of thing. So it is important to be mindful about your water usage. And like you mentioned, one of the ways a lot of folks end up using more water than they should is in things like brushing their teeth. As you're brushing your teeth, if you can remember to wet the toothbrush and then turn the faucet off, and then go forward with brushing your teeth, and then turn the faucet back on, you'll end up saving a lot of water, a lot more water than you would think in just those few seconds.
All right, John, you lead me into my next area. So, taking a shower. Same thing, I'm turning on the water, waiting for it to warm up. Standing outside, that water's just going. I'm not putting myself on a timer when I'm taking a shower. I'm sure that could help, but I'm just used to using it. And even washing dishes. Sometimes I'm old school. I want to use my hands. I think the dishes get cleaner if I do it by hand as opposed to using a dishwasher. Help me out. What advice would you share with me?
All right, starting with the shower. A lot of times when we are getting in a shower, we turn the shower on and we set that knob to the temperature of where we want the temperature to be once we're in the shower. The problem with that is we put that somewhere between all the way on cold and all the way on off. And so you're pulling water from the cold water supply and the hot water supply. And you're pushing that water in the hot water supply through that line, and all that water between the hot water heater and the shower head is cold, of course, which is why we're waiting. Here's a tip for you. If you turn that knob to where it's hotter than it would normally be, you can even turn it all the way to hot. I would not recommend that if you've got small children in the house because you can get scalded that way. But if you'll turn it to hotter than you would normally use during a regular shower, then you'll get more of that hot water flowing through that line faster. So you're not wasting all that cold water through that line. So you get the shower warmed up quicker, and then you can turn that knob back to the normal temperature that you would be using. It's also important to use low flow faucet heads. In washing dishes, a dishwasher is more efficient with water usage. But if you are going to wash your dishes in the sink, make sure that you fill up the sink all the way and wash all the dishes in the water there, and then drain the sink out, and then rinse your dishes. If you're using a dishwasher and you want to be even more conservative with your water usage, don't pre-rinse. You can scrape the food off into the trash can and then put the dish in the dishwasher instead of standing there with all the spaghetti or salad and whatever all over your plate and trying to wash it all off in the sink. Get as much of that off in the trash can as possible.
John, you're making it all make sense to me now. Lastly, when it comes to doing laundry. So when I'm washing white clothes, I'm putting the water temperature on hot. If I'm doing colored clothes, sometimes I change it to warm. If I'm just washing my black clothes, I do cold water. What would you advise?
Most of the time, warm water is fine unless you have something that's very soiled. I think most of the time, most people will wash whites on hot just because it does get the stains out better. If you want to go with all cold water and not use any hot water to conserve electricity, you'll need to make sure you're using a cold water detergent. Although be mindful that not all cold water detergents are necessarily eco-friendly. Also, as you're looking to upgrade your washing machine, purchasing one of the high-efficiency washers will help conserve water. And using Energy Star compliant washers and dryers also helps conserve energy.
All right, thanks, John, for the tips and the wisdom. As he mentioned, if you're taking a shower, it'll also be helpful to get a low-flow shower head. And for washing clothes and your dishes, get an Energy Star certified dishwasher or clothes washer. And those are things that'll help you out on saving your bill. Also, visit our website, www.faypwc.com, for more information and tips on how you can conserve. Well, hopefully this has been a helpful segment. Either way, regardless, these are the facts.
PWC's new seasonal light incentive program kicks off October 1st. This exciting program offers PWC customers a bill credit of up to $40 if they swap out their old incandescent holiday lights with new LED lights. LED lights use up to 90% less energy and can last up to 40 seasons. They are more economical. Plus, they shine more brightly, so you'll have the best-looking holiday decorations on the block. Renters and homeowners are eligible for this program, and the lights may be purchased from anywhere. your favorite store, or online. All applications must be received prior to January 15th. Customers may dispose of their old light strands at the PWC Customer Service Center located at 955 Old Wilmington Road from 8:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. To learn more about this limited time offer, including complete program details and applications, visit the PWC website today or call customer programs at 223-4600.
This is the annual Martin Luther King Prayer Breakfast, and we have been doing it now for 25 years. This year is the 25th anniversary, and it's sponsored by the Fayetteville, Cumberland County Ministerial Council, of which I am president. So it's a whole team of us who sponsor this event. It's important because I think we need to continue to remember the life and legacy of King, and not just the man himself, but what he stood for, what he desired for life in America. Particularly when you come down to a community, he often spoke about the beloved community, and his philosophy was that we may have our differences, we may have conflicts, but at the end of the day, we all have to come back to the same community and work together. So that's what I promote, working together and living together in unity. The events will include the annual worship service, which is on that Sunday evening. It will begin at 5 o'clock, and our speaker's coming from Raleigh, North Carolina. He's a member of the North Carolina State Commission for MLK recognition. And then on Monday, which this year happens to fall on King's birthday, our speaker will be Bishop Charles Ellis out of Detroit, Michigan, and he's going to bring us the message of keeping the dream alive and coming together in unity and working together. There's a cost for the event. If you purchase a ticket in advance, it's $20, but if you pay at the door, it's $23. But we encourage you to get your ticket up front. We have several confirmed vendors, but one of the vendors is actually PWC. And PWC has been a vendor since we started. I took over, this will make my 5th year, and each year we've held it, PWC has been a vendor. We always try to focus on our youth in the community, and we have the Youth Leadership Council of Fayetteville that will be participating with us. At least 3 of them will be on stage doing something, and the others will act as ambassadors for that day, greeting people and showing them around. And we also will have a spoken word by one of the local students, whoever wins the contest in the community. And I always just like to highlight the young people, because they have to catch the dream. Oh, and this year we do have an added feature. After the breakfast, the youth will be in a talent presentation. It's called Spreading the Dream, and whoever wins the spoken word will be there, and other churches and groups, civic or church, can apply to have their youth group come and perform or do something. I feel really strong about the MLK events because it's so important that we come together as a people, as a nation, and as a community. And as I said, King promoted the ideal of the beloved community. And with our nation being torn in so many directions, now is the time that I do believe that we're being called to live out the dream. Not something that sounds good or on a marquee or in a book, but the reality of living this dream of coming together as a people. That is my hope, and that is my desire.
To save power at home, we ensure to cut all the lights off every time we leave. We save water by washing big loads of clothes in cold water and drying them all at one time.
I conserve energy at home by turning lights off when I'm not in the room, adjusting my thermostat, use LED light bulbs wherever I can, adjust the temperature of my water heater, And I go to PWC's website to check out useful tips, and I apply them.
We will lower our heat or AC when we're not at home during the day to try to conserve energy. And also, anytime I have a bulb blowout, I will replace it, light bulb, I will replace it with an LED bulb. That way I don't have to spend a large amount of money to replace all the bulbs at one time and can spend it here and there whenever a bulb blows out. I also like to conserve energy by washing clothes in cold water only.
I make sure that all of my water faucets are turned off. I make sure that I turn all the lights off in rooms that we're not utilizing. And when I'm brushing my teeth, I make sure that I turn the water faucets off. In my bathroom, I make sure that I put all the waste in the waste basket and not in the toilet.
I conserve by only flushing the toilet once.
The way I conserve at home is I've changed the majority of my lights indoors to LEDs. I've also got an outdoor sensor light, motion sensor, so I don't have to keep my porch light on all night, only when somebody comes to the door. When I use the dishwasher, I make sure that it's a full load, turn off all lights when they're not in use. I close doors of rooms that I don't use, keep the shades down during the hot summer months. We have replaced some appliances in our home, so we've used the Energy Star ratings whenever we're looking for appliances. We replaced our refrigerator and our air conditioning unit.
When customers call in asking how to conserve energy, we recommend turning your cooling to the 78 and your heating on 68, and also using your ceiling fans to circulate that heating and cooling. Also changing out your air filters every 30 days helps with the energy, and that's what I do at home.
So one of the things that we like to do in my home to save energy is to switch all of our light bulbs to LEDs, and to save on the water side of the house, sometimes we will either turn off or turn down our water heater, and we found that that saves us a lot of money on our bill each month.
Hi, and welcome to TakeOne. This is our chance to highlight news, upcoming events, and important FYIs from Fayetteville PWC. I'm Courtney Lucas. Mark your calendar for a calendar. PWC's very popular Energy Savers calendars are back, and they are jam-packed full of year-round energy and water-saving tips. You can pick up your complimentary 2018 wall or pocket calendar while supplies last, now at PWC's Customer Service Center, located at the corner of Eastern Boulevard and Old Wilmington Road. Energy Savers calendars will also be available at City Hall. You may request a copy by mail by calling 910-223-4009. The calendar makes an awesome stocking stuffer. The 24th annual Grinding of the Greens, one of the largest recycling efforts in our great city, is just around the corner. Fayetteville PWC, Duke Energy Progress, and the City of Fayetteville have partnered together to turn recycled Christmas trees into mulch for parks in our area. If you live in the city, put your live tree out for pickup by the morning of January 8th. If you live outside of the city limits, you may take your tree to the Fayetteville Community Garden at the corner of Van Story and Mann Streets. Just make sure it's there by 8:30 a.m. on Saturday, January 13th. PWC offices will be closed on Monday, December 25th and Tuesday, December 26th for Christmas. PWC will observe the New Year's holiday on Monday, January 1st. Normal business hours will resume on Tuesday, January 2nd. Thanks for watching TakeOne. Remember to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm Courtney. More power to you.